want to get a good seed as they get put into the playoffs that's going to start in October. And I think, Ray and the team, amazing lineup. But the fighters, they're showing it in the cage. They understand this format. They understand if they win. You just heard it from Andre, that if you win, you're going to advance. And now we're just going to see that next phase with PFL 5 and 6 with the other weight classes, and then the playoffs now are starting to come together here with the heavyweights and the 45s. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Sorry, and just to add on when Carlos mentioned Calvin Tiller. I mean, that guy. It was the same with Francois. They both came out in PFL 1. They stopped their first opponents, and then they come out in this one. And Calvin Tiller surprised me, I think, out of everybody tonight. It's because he's a guy that fought at 185 and now fights at heavyweight. He knocks out his first opponent, and he submits someone like Jared Rocher, who's very hard to submit. And so what I said to him after the fight, I'm like, listen, you showed that you could stop some of the best, submit some of the best. So what I'd like to see is you come, maybe 240, 250, because I think he's one of these guys that's so skillful and talented that if he comes a lot lighter, he's going to be a lot more active, and he becomes very dangerous.
Yeah, he alluded to that earlier. He said he's a middleweight just with a heavyweight body.
Right.
That's a good description.
That's funny.
What are your thoughts on his overall emergence? Here's a guy who's kind of an underdog. People aren't thinking he would win either of his fights, and here he is, 11 points.
Well, and that's the thing, again, listen, all these guys have really basically have come out and action speaks louder than words, right? And again, I'm very surprised in Calvin Tiller's skills. Like, I was told by his manager that, he's very talented, but we didn't see much in the first fight. We saw him roll under, throw overhand right, and land it, and the fight was over. Today, we saw him not only take Rocher down, was able to, sweep him as well, and then finish the submission, which is, I never expected that, you know what I mean? And so, I don't think Rocher expected that. But that goes to show how skillful he is. And so, that guy at the heavyweight division, he's got a huge future.
But what's really great is that you asked that question. Is not only that he gets a win, but that he's got 11 points. And it just shows you that each of these fighters are understanding and fighting and understand that they control where they go. And you're seeing it. You saw it with Lance at the end of the night here. He had the win. You watch the fight, and if Ray would have said Lance is going to get a decision, but he got a chance, and he's like, I'm going to get a finish because I want to get some points because it's going to help me become a better seed as he gets into the playoffs. And I think that's what the PFL is all about. It's about giving the fighters the chance to say that if you win, you advance, and if you keep winning, you'll eventually be the champion.
But not only that, just to add on to what Carlos said, 100%, but also the fighters know that when they come out and they finish first round, second round, even a third, they're ahead of points. So suddenly, like again, some of the guys tonight that won 6 points that finished their fights in the first round, they're like absolutely happy because they're leading that board. You know what I mean? And so, and again, add to what Lance was to what Carlos was saying about Lance. Yeah, he knew he had to finish that to get that extra points, and that extra points matters a lot. So. It really, the thing is, PFL is allowing these guys to be themselves, but it's also they're allowing themselves to get in there and just be the best athletes they can be.
So you think that concept is like starting to really?
Oh, trust me, I'm a product of this concept, so I know it works.
Yeah, because a lot, earlier today, a few fighters they said, we just want to win, we just want to win in advance and move on. But I'm starting to believe that, that's still in the back of their mind, like we got to get those points.
There's no doubt about it, and look, you see it. You see, again, like Lance at the end of the night, he could have just won and he would have be in the playoffs, but he's like, I'm going to get a chance to get some bonus points and make sure I'm a better seed. Because now trust me, they're all going home tonight and they're looking at where their points are and who they're going to line up against in the quarterfinals in October. And that matters. They're looking at the matchup based on their points.
Are Tiller and Harrison two people that you can build around in the PFL?
Say again?
Are those two fighters, Tiller and Harrison, two fighters that you can build around to make the mainstays of the PFL?
Harrison is I think he's a great athlete, and I think he is a good fighter. He's a guy with a lot of skills, but I don't think we've seen the best of him. And if you look at his record, he's only finished 2 guys. He's 19-0 with two stoppage and 3 submissions, I think. Now, I truly believe, like, when I watch him move in the cage, I think, there are guys that have all the weapons, but somehow putting it together is something that, whether it comes with experience or not, whatever. But Tilla, on the other hand, he's proven that he can not only knock you out, but he also can submit you. You know what I mean? So that 100%, that's the guy that you can also build, because he can finish. He can submit you or knock you out. And there's no doubt in my mind that every time he steps in there, he's gonna try and finish it.
Yeah, and don't forget, when these guys get into the quarterfinals and they get into the playoffs, it's the quarterfinals and the semifinals in the same night. The quarterfinals is 2 rounds. If you're a guy that's been getting finishes in the regular season, you're going to be thinking, I can finish these guys, because you really want to get a finish in the quarterfinals, because you don't want to leave it to the judges. And I think that sort of mental advantage around these guys that have gotten these bonus points is going to make a big difference when we get into the playoff night in October.
And take it from someone that's fought in Grand Prix many years. It ain't easy to fight. I mean, when we fought in the Grand Prix in K1, I fought 3 times in one night. These guys are fighting two fights in one night. That being said, it's still tough. And if you're a guy that goes the distance, I mean, you're going to accumulate, certain aches and pains here and there. But the guy that comes out and finishes, like Tilla, who comes out and finishes you in the first minute,
Or Seiler.
He's going to be sitting at the back going, I'm good, I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? So it's a mental, again, like when we had the talk today or yesterday, I try and get these guys to get into this mindset that it doesn't matter who they fight. Because when you get into the playoffs, it ain't going to matter, because the guy that you fight and the guy you expect to come through the other side might not be the guy that comes through. You know what I mean? So they got to get around this mindset of saying, you know what? Listen, I believe in myself, I believe in my ability, and I don't care who comes through. You know what I mean? So, and I think that got through yesterday. And so the guys came out tonight and really tried to finish.
Look, all these fighters are super lucky, because they're getting ready to fight in a regular season of playoffs and a championship, and they're hearing from Ray Sefo how to do it, because that's what he did. So when he's telling them that you got to go out and do it, I mean, I see it. We work every day together.
Right.
And I see how the fighters look when Ray talks to them, because he knows what it's like to walk into the cage once, twice, 3 times in front of 50,000 people and get wins, and not worry about who you're fighting, but just worry about getting a finish and getting a win. So all these fighters, I think they've got a great advantage being able to look to Ray and get that advice and that feedback from a guy that knows what it's like to get in there and have that cage door close and throw it down.
What are your thoughts on a guy like Max Koga, who knocks out a former champion of another promotion in the 3rd round?
Who's that? Like, who did
he defeated Galvo.
Yeah, but that went the distance.
Oh, I thought there was a finish, no?
No, it was finished.
No, it was a finish.
3rd round.
3rd round finish.
Koga got a 3rd round finish. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes, you're right. There's so many finishes, I wasn't sure which one. Well, I mean, listen, Koga, especially tonight, you got to see that he was very agile, that he was very active. He picked his shots. He knew where he could win the fight. He knew where he couldn't win the fight. So, but that's what it takes. You got to be, I tell him that he was very agile, that he was very active. He picked his shots. He knew where he could win the fight. He knew where he couldn't win the fight. So, but that's what it takes. You got to be, I tell the guys all the time, the fighters that will continue to move on and the fighters that will come out on top is fighters that are creative, meaning that you got to create something in there. If your game plan is not working, you got to create something. And guys that believe in themselves and their ability. And Max Koga is one of those guys. You saw him move the way he moved, the way he set things up. So he's definitely, a force to be reckoned with.
wonder if you could talk about the Seiler finish. There was a little bit of controversy whether or not it was correct. I spoke to him after the fight. Even he wasn't sure if he had the finish or not. And with so much on the line, obviously officiating and those kind of calls are going to be a big deal.
Well, it's funny because when he got dropped right in front of us. So I knew he was hurt. And then when Seiler locked on the guillotine, and there was a second where you see his knee come up, but not long after that, his knee folds, and I was like, he's out. And then Dan also jumped in and stopped it. So to me, I thought he was out. I didn't think he moved enough, or whether he didn't let Dan know that he was okay, especially when he got dropped. It's different when the guy shoots in and someone locks that guillotine up, and then you're really not sure if it's tight or not. But when you get dropped and then walk into a guillotine, that's a little bit different. So he's got to, as the fighter, he's got to let the ref know that he's okay. Again, I said to Carlos, I think he's out. And then a second later, Dan stopped it.
Yeah, and look, Dan's job is to do exactly what he should do, which is protect the fighters. I mean, that's what the referee's there for.
Yeah.
He saw it the way he saw it. You can all go look at the replays, and it looks like, Alexander sort of did slump. And at that point, Dan jumped in. That's what he saw, and you got to respect that they're in there to protect the fighters. The good news is Alexander's going to advance as well, and he'll have a playoff spot. And that's a fight game.
Yeah, he came over to me and asked if he can appeal. I said, you can appeal, but I don't think that decision's gonna overturn, because when I'm sitting, and especially also after seeing the video, again, you see it clearly when that guillotine is locked on. You see his knee it's almost like it's standing up, but a few seconds after that, his knee folds and he falls over. So to me, he was out. Again, only Almeida knows that, whether he was out or not. But from where I was sitting and from where Dan was standing, although we weren't communicating, we didn't know, we obviously saw the same thing.
On a different track, obviously, Kayla Harrison's been one of the breakout stars for the PFL, and I know you're thinking of having her back in August. Is there any opponent that you have in mind?
We have a couple of opponents in mind, but that's still in the works, and so we'll release that soon.
Yeah, Kayla's in the gym. She's training hard. I spoke to her yesterday. She's excited, and you'll definitely see her in August.
Who's higher in the standings between Harrison and Almeida? Because I believe both have 6 points. Is it Harrison's 2 wins, or is it Almeida's stoppage?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think both have 6 points.
There's actually 3 guys with 6 points in
Okay.
featherweights.
What he's asking is, if they both have 6 points, is it because Almeida won both fights, or is it? Andre, because he gets 3 points for the decision, right?
Yeah. So there's a number of tiebreakers. Head to head is the first tiebreaker. Wins and losses is another tiebreaker. And so as we roll down those tiebreakers, if people have the same amount of points, it'll determine not only if they make the top 8, but what the seedings are as we roll through those tiebreakers.
Thank you.
Family seems to be a pretty.
Sorry, this gentleman has tried it 3 times already. Go ahead. Sorry.
You guys have had now 2 matches, 2 events, one coming up also in New York. What have you seen from not just the fan base, but the rest, the fighters that have been produced, like Dre and a few others? But what have you seen from the New York in general?
I mean, the New York has a great base of martial artists. I mean, when you have gyms like Renzo Gracie, Ray Longo, and a few others, there's definitely some top fighters and top warriors that come out of those gyms, and so there's a good amount of fighters that come out of New York. And then you have also a lot of the Russian fighters that train out here as well. So I mean, New York obviously has been dying to have MMA for the longest time, and now they have because they have such a great talent pool.
And both fights. I mean, we had a great fight with these same featherweights and heavyweights at Madison Square Garden back in June 7th to start the season, and I think they came here out to Long Island and showed again that, I mean, some great exciting fights tonight. I mean, finishes, knockouts, submissions. Even the decisions were great fights. And so New York crowd, chanting, love, the chanting USA. and some other stuff. So we're happy to be here. It's great working with Kim and the commission. They've really helped us to get all the fights together, working with Ray and the fight team. So we're looking forward to coming back here in 2 weeks, back here at Nassau Coliseum at NYCB, the team at Brooklyn Sports and Entertainment. It's been great to work with. I thought the arena out here looked great the way it was configured. I think every seat was a great seat. So we'll be back here in 2 weeks, so you should come out and check out the fights.
I was going to ask, family seems to be pretty important in PFL. Open workout, all the fighters bring their family, the kids, and then tonight Tiller's mother comes to the ring. How important is family to PFL?
Listen, my son was here. Family is everything. No matter what we do in life, family is everything. So we try and, and get that out there too, that we're PFL is fighters first, but we're also family, oriented company. So some of our owners were here with some of their kids as well. So absolutely, family's everything.
Yeah, my daughter was here. She's interning for us, and look, we're all a family. It's called the Professional Fighters League. That was a very conscious effort. It's not called the Professional Fight League, and that's because the fighters are also part of the league. It's part of what Ray and I and and Pete and our owners and George and all of us do is we all travel together. We put on these events. The fighters come and bring great show and great energy to the cage, and we're going to go back now and spend a week and get ready to come back here as a family and put on another great show in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Family that fights together stays together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not only is family important to you, it's the talent level of what everybody has, not so much their marketability, which you do have some amazing marketable fighters here, but their talent is what counts, which is huge because you don't see that often anymore in promotions.
Well, it's because we're not a promotion. We're a sports league, and Ray and the team have done an amazing job in selecting these fighters. And I think the criteria, again, I can't stress enough that when Ray goes and looks with our scouting team at fighters, he's looking at him as a guy that spent his entire career fighting. He's a 6-time world champion. I'm just happy to, he's taught me so much too. And then we're all sports guys. And so I think we put a great group of guys together, and then, we'll add women and the ladies next year. But they all understand that. I think they're great athletes. I love their training, their fitness, what they do every single day. And I think you see it in the cage.
Well, I could say I know I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody else here does too, because it's enough seeing the showmanship, but to see people actually show their talent is huge.
Thank you.
And it's also nice to see, some of what these fighters do at the end. Alex Nicholson, obviously did not want to lose that fight, but you know what? He's got respect. He's got discipline. They shook hands. They gave each other a hug, and on the way out, he said to me, "You know what, Carlos? I'll see you in October." He's already thinking about coming and fighting in the playoffs, and you know what? That's great. That's the way it should work.
Absolutely.
What female fighters are you looking for next year? Are you any talent already that have your interest?
Yeah, there's a matter of fact, I have probably about 18 more females that, and obviously I can't go